What do you make of all of it? Is this an example of good succession planning?
Well, at first blush, it feels like the opposite of the Bob Iger situation, where he decided to dive back into a horribly messy macro environment in the hope of fixing it. Whereas Reed looks like he is stepping back a little bit. But then as you think about it a little further, an executive chairman is very different than a non-executive chairman. Executive chairman sort of says, I still have to clear everything if I want to. I've still got an office right there, and you're going to see me all the time. Plus the fact that they've brought in a co-CEO still. I thought when they elevated Ted Sarandos to co-CEO, that was the sign that he was the successor. So imagine now the idea that he was not the successor. And in fact, he sort of hemmed in on both sides. I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know any of the psychology involved among these people, but I just wonder how that's going to play out.
Jon, you've led sort of legacy traditional media companies, you've led digital media companies. Where does Netflix sit right now for you in, I guess, the leadership of this growing and increasingly competitive field? Disney, Warner Brothers, Discovery, the data shows they're growing. They're also considering whether they aggressively spend, whether they pull back. Is Netflix a healthy company despite kind of the shakeup they've had at management?
Well, Netflix transformed the entire media industry, not so much by the content choices they made, but by deploying AI, data crunching to better understand what content they ought to make and how to market it. So they belong in the Hall of Fame for that. But I think everybody's ignoring TikTok. TikTok has passed Netflix as the #2 streaming choice for US audiences under 35. And that is huge. Gen Z is part of they are a tsunami, and they're making their choices with short form video that doesn't cost barely anything. And meantime, everybody's obsessing over Netflix subscriber growth, but the people are voting with their swipey fingers. And I run a Gen Z platform. Hang enables fans to watch sports on TV alongside athletes and entertainers and celebrities. And we spend next to nothing on content, but we've grown 1000x primarily with Gen Z users because they care about the immediate, they care about meaningful moments, and they want to be able to dip in and out whenever they feel like it. That's very different than the beautifully constructed content models that all the traditional streaming platforms are using. So I think everybody's ignoring the TikTok elephant in the room.
I think that's really interesting to bring that out, Jon, because I always remember the surprising competitor that Netflix used to reference was gaming, and really felt that that was where the eyeballs were. And then, of course, now setting up their own sort of gaming focus. You're saying, look, it's actually really social media, but this new generation of social media. And Jon, to that point, let's talk about culture for a minute, because you're someone who's had to think about this long and hard, whether you've been in the original media, the CNN roles, whether you're now with Hang, and thinking about cultivating that innovative style. And that's really also what Reed Hastings was known for, was shaking things up when it comes to a corporate culture, when it comes to reinventing the way in which people have responsibility, but also freedom. Are they able to innovate? Are they able to take over and take on the likes of TikTok and their other competitors at the space with this new leadership, do you think?
It's very, very difficult for established incumbents to change a culture, but we've seen it happen at Microsoft. And here they are, still players, and so it can be done, but it's a big mission. It's a little harder to do with 3 people at the top, which is what Netflix now has. And maybe I'm a little colored by the fact that I am the media consultant for the show Succession, where it's always some sort of diabolical, underhanded goings-on in the corporate suite and the living room. But it just looks to me, culture starts at the very top. That's how cultures are set. That's a big part of why I think Iger came back in, because he was one person who created the culture and can enforce it. Trickier when you've got 3, especially when you've got the founder of the company still there. When I ran CNN, Ted Turner had not been there for a good 10 years. And it would have been kind of awkward for the management to make decisions with the founder still sitting there.
Yeah.
He had the good grace to exit. a lot of CEOs and founders realize that it's time to move on. When you're done, you're done. I'm not sure how this is going to play out.
Interesting you talk about, and it's such a question of corporate governance. It's also a question of bench now. And Bella Bajaria, that was an interesting move, that now she takes the role of chief content officer, having been heading up the global TV side of Netflix. Content is king, we all know that. So from your perspective, what are the innovative ways she can think about content? Is she going to have to start to think about how she keeps people glued amid the distraction of social media?
Well, they're lucky at Netflix, and I guess I shouldn't say lucky because it was on purpose. They have built an incredible data capture and analytics engine that eliminates the gut instinct of executives, which are so often wrong. They're usually wrong. Look at how many new shows are launched on a TV season versus how many last even a month. And I think what she's probably doing, even as we speak, is doubling down on drilling into those thousands of different taste clusters that tell them what you like to watch versus what Ed likes to watch versus what 100 other people like to watch. And you're all getting hit with different suggestions, and each presented in a different way because they also understand what kind of thumbnail pictures you respond to, what kind of previews and highlights you tend to click on rather than anybody else. So they say everybody gets their own Netflix, and that's true. That's an advantage for Netflix in kind of figuring their way through this desert. They've doubled down on the amount of Korean programming that they're buying now. And that's because their algorithms are telling them to do that. So you were just talking a lot about AI. Another way that AI impacts the entertainment industry and will do even more moving forward is by its ability to make us dumb humans have insights that we never could have achieved on our own.